security expert at PNC, and I've gone, oh my God, thank you, feel better now. Oh, it just goes on and on. So, hope it doesn't come to that.
My mother had her identity stolen, but oh God, did it take a long time to.
Yeah, well, on one hand, PNC's saying, we have online banking with them. We've had it for like 30 or 40 years. And she indirectly
Recording
said,
in progress.
"Oh, it's
Stopped.
it's only a credit card. It's not your checking account. It's not the same." Oh, that's the good news then. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So you enjoyed your meeting last night?
We went till 9:45.
Which one was this?
Historic preservation.
Oh.
She's been rotated in.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I mean, they go from
Yeah.
5 or 6 options, agenda items to 0, and I cancel the meeting. So it's just feast or famine. Melanie, I have a book to loan you. My name is on the
I
back.
think I already have this one.
Oh. Okay. Well, you want
Loan it to me then.
Yeah, pass it on to her then.
Thank you.
Great.
I will return it.
Okay. You know where I live?
Yeah.
You should open the front page and say, "Don't."
It's from
Well,
2019.
I asked if the recommendation was houseboat, and he said, yes, that's one of them.
The Dutch do that, so.
I read a couple of years ago that in Holland, they were making houses that float when it floods. So they're built on these pylons, these
And they're
circular
concrete,
pylons.
actually, concrete bases.
And they can float.
Yeah, it's like the docks you see that have that collar around the pilings.
right back.
And they rise with the tide. What's his name?
It's Bob.
Oh,
Hey.
volume may not be on.
Bob, are you in a camper?
Can't hear us.
You can't hear us.
Yeah. Or it's in the forward compartment of his yacht. Yeah.
That could be a boat. You're right. I never thought of that. You see my background, like a trailer maybe. Boat.
Modest, yeah.
My in-laws spent the last 20 years or so, well, before they decided it was too much for them, in campers. In, what is it, the big group that
Yeah.
is organized? I mean,
Oh.
they took their camper to China. They did a trip through China.
Oh, really? Wow, I
Really
didn't realize
bizarre.
that.
Good Neighbor Sam or something like that. It's one big camping group.
How was your trip?
Oh.
Oh, I was talking to Joe.
Oh, I got to see, we went by the entrance to Falling Water, but I got to see the Frank Lloyd Wright House, Kentuck Knob, which is the one that, well, recently got opened like 5 or 6 years
My
ago.
cousin used to manage Kentuck Knob.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's
She was in
cozy,
Union- She was in Uniontown, yeah.
And I pointed out to my wife, they have a ramp going up. There's like 3 little steps from the entrance driveway for deliveries or wheelchair. But then, if you're in a wheelchair,
Recording
you can't
in
move in the house.
progress.
You can't turn the corners, it's just, and it is a very cozy little house.
Yeah, it's
Dark and narrow, yeah.
Did you go to Falling Water too, or not?
No, we've seen that a few years ago.
Okay.
I've seen that a couple of times,
Yeah.
so this is our chance to
It's
see
pretty
Kentuck
cool,
Knob. When
yeah.
we were staying in Butler, PA, we drove down there. It was about 2 hours away.
You are good to go.
Bob's turned on?
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Where are you, Bob?
Yeah, I can.
What?
I am in Block Island, Rhode Island.
Oh, neat.
Ah.
In a
Are
boat?
you in a boat?
Yeah.
See?
That's even better.
Well,
That's
I've had
even
this for
better.
a while, but
We were trying to figure camper versus boat based on the windows behind you. He's a camper. You're kidding.
tied up at what they call the New Harbor, and with my daughter and her boyfriend, and we're gonna have a nice afternoon.
Great. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my notes from last time said the open space needs review, and procedure, the checklist on the preliminary plan, and corridor buffers. So those were the 3 items, I think, that were outstanding.
Okay, and I have a question on Janelle's markup, just for clarification. There's some, understand red stuff, black stuff that's crossed out and new red stuff put in, but there's some red stuff crossed out.
Yeah.
Is that in or out?
So everything with the strike through is proposed to be removed. So the original, if it's struck through, was previously discussed, and then anything in red strike through is based on the last meeting, from what I understood, was to come out. And then if it's not strike through in red, we were adding it. There's a few things that we added. I took out the corridor buffers because I couldn't remember if we were going to take that out and just have it reference 170, or if we were going to change the numbers. So that was definitely to discuss, but I took it out, again, just in case you wanted to reference 170, because my note said to reference 170, so you're not duplicating the same code.
Yeah, my note says match 170.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
But-
So I just, we can leave 7 in, but we can get rid of everything after that, and then just reference chapter 170 for corridor buffers, if you want to make sure there's still a reference to corridor buffers. Does that make sense?
Well, that's a good question on the corridor buffers. Do we want to give an advantage to an annex site so that the buffer is less?
Are you defining corridors anywhere?
This is, my understanding, it's the same that's in 170, so I think, that's up to you guys.
It's the historic Lewis byways.
Byways.
Oh, okay.
So,
that
yeah,
way,
it's,
okay.
yeah, it's the little, yeah, thank you, Melanie.
That's the
Yeah.
word, okay.
It's the,
That's where they come from.
yep.
Yes,
You know,
all right.
So,
What would be the thinking on why you'd want the corridors less? Is this to give another carrot for
Yeah.
annexation, or
Yeah.
is it, yeah?
or do we want to maintain it?
I kind of like it with the more open, but,
I like carrots.
yeah, but I understand the value of carrots, so, yeah. Where does Bob stand?
A little lost, but sorry to admit that.
Well, to
Where-
explain it a little.
You're exactly on taking out number 7 corridor buffers.
Well,
That part.
we're referencing 170, which is the subdivision regs. The subdivision regs say that if you join a historic byway, such as New Road, then you have to provide a 75-foot setback to residential lots.
Yeah, I think I'd be fine on that, and that's where you're in a B parentheses 2.
That's, it's actually 6A1.
It's page 4.
Okay.
Am I correct? Did I give him the right reference?
Can you give his,
It should be B7 on page 4.
I don't have that
Okay,
with me, so.
all right, let me,
uh-oh, I think I didn't bring my first page, so I don't have a
okay,
page.
I'm gonna print,
I'm sorry.
let me print a couple of copies. Yep.
But Bob,
I'm
the
making one
issue
for
is, should we offer a carrot to the annex zone where the buffer would be slightly less than 75 feet?
Go grab those.
Well, this would include any del dot right-of-ways they want too.
And remember, the numbers got reduced in the subdivision code.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like along New Road, they have space for shoulders and multi-use trail. And,
But the buffer is measured from the new right-of-way.
oh, okay, so it's that plus del dot's needs. Whoa. Interesting.
Yes.
Now,
Could you say that again, Joe?
we did reduce it
Yeah.
in the subdivision code.
Because,
It used to
for
be
instance,
bigger.
New Road is
thought I had the
being
latest.
widened with shoulders being added and additional right-of-way being taken for a multi-use path along
That's
there.
what I just
So
picked up from
I
the
thought that would be
from the
included
city.
within our setbacks, but it's not, so it's in addition to that. So it adds up.
Didn't get that.
I'm missing the first page of it, so she's finding the rest.
Well, she's making more copies, so.
More copies, yeah.
I don't think I have a huge problem on 60 or 75, so. Think about that.
Okay.
Just would like 170 to be referenced.
Yeah, we can do that.
Could you refer us again to which area we're looking at now that we all,
Yeah. Is it on here?
1, 2, 3, page 4.
One, two, three.
wait, if we reference 170, we're not really going to reference it, then we'll be changing it here for,
So,
isn't that what we're saying? I mean,
so what we could do is leave 7 and the number 7 corridor buffers, and then say they have to comply per 170, and then remove everything after that. Because everything after that is already in 170.
but if they want to, I mean, the discussion is whether,
Yeah.
whether it would be a narrower buffer for someone annexing.
Yeah, if you want to leave this in and then go down to 30, 40, whatever numbers you're thinking about, then we'd leave it all in. But if you just want to reference 170, we would just keep number 7 and add something that says we reference 170.
Well, I think we're thinking about reducing it to 60 feet.
So that's actually already in 170. 170, so let me
So
bring up,
it's no longer 75.
it's no longer 75 in the subdivision code.
We want to go to 50? It's not a big jump, but it's
It's an incentive for the
an
homeowner,
incentive.
yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, what's the comparison though? Because it's only, I mean, if we've already reduced it and that gives a carrot. I mean, when
But it's-
someone's making a decision to annex or not, they're deciding, do I go with Sussex County or do I go with Lewis? What would what would Sussex County require?
Well, they're going to be staying in Sussex County. They have Sussex County's
Yeah.
rules and regulations already. So they're staying, or whether they go to our side of the fence, this type of thing. And what
And-
incentives would we have to take them in besides?
But my question is the 60 better than what they would have if they stayed?
In the county.
No.
In the county.
No, it would not. I want to say it's 40 or 50 feet in the county, from what I recall. And again, are we trying to incentivize them to ask for the AX res zoning classification when they annex in versus, say, the R2.
Yeah.
So the R2 is going to have whatever 170 is, but do you want to incentivize to get them to use this section, this zoning classification?
Right.
So that's where the difference is gonna come
I
in.
see,
If they're
okay.
gonna annex, they can ask for any zoning classification they believe is appropriate. It's, you know, do we wanna incentivize them by
Yes. Yeah.
coming in with this one?
Well, let's
then
reduce it 10
60 would-
feet.
Yeah,
Let's get close to the county, if
Yeah.
not on, to match the county.
yeah.
Yeah, but let's, you know, I'm only going from a memory of a newspaper thing. So probably inaccurate. Let's check and see what the county is
Okay,
currently, or, you know, within the next meeting proposed. And then let's go 10 feet less, but
okay, so,
something like
Well,
that.
I'm not sure I want to go 10 feet less than the county. I mean, because the county, if the county's at 40, that's 30.
Okay,
Do we want
you're right,
Lewis
you're right,
to be
Nancy.
a more closed, I mean, we're talking about byways here. Do we want the Lewis byways to be more constrained and less beautiful in a way than,
Right.
Well, except if you're dealing with like New Road, if Dildot's doing improvements, they're gonna be taking some of the owner's property too.
But they take it regardless of whether it's
Yeah,
in the county or
well,
the city.
You know, we're saying if it is 50 feet, by the time it gets done, it might be 75. You know, what Dildot needs are 20 feet for walkways and shoulders and stuff. So it depends on what road they're against, you know?
yeah, but I'm also thinking of the visual of when you're driving down a road and you suddenly see everything
Which,
squished in versus, so if the incentive is to go with AX red, how are we saying it? Yeah. Okay.
it's,
AX-res or AX-res. I think the 60 gives that incentive.
But it doesn't give it to stay in the county would be
Yeah,
more advantageous.
yeah. But unfortunately, the county's more advantageous.
yeah, tax-wise.
I mean, you know, like
so,
I'm not sure that
doesn't
the
look like
extra
the
10 feet is going to make a difference between the county versus Lewis. But, I mean, what
The-
do you think?
county has a buffer on routes 1, 113, and 13 for the combined highway corridor overlay zone. It doesn't look like they've adopted anything for the byways. So if there's something along one of the byways, it would be a recommendation or a condition of approval, but there's nothing, and again, I'm searching their code right now, and I can't come up with, there's nothing that references the byway in their zoning code.
Yeah, the whole byway thing is totally a recommendation. that
And they had-
municipalities can obey it or ignore it,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, they adopted it as,
Just,
as,
it's just out there, you know?
yes.
Well, I still think we should give an incentive of 10 feet.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the 10-foot incentive.
Okay.
So-
It's the going down to 30 or 40 that I'm not
Yeah,
keen on.
okay. Bob, are you okay with that? A 10-foot incentive?
I am, you know, as long as you go back and it references 170, yes.
Okay,
Okay, so you want it to match 170 and not just go down an extra 10 feet from 170?
well, what do you mean by matching then?
So matching is I think you took everything down to 60 or 50 feet in 170. So that, if we're gonna match 170, those would be the 60 and the 50 feet. Or did you wanna take 170 and then even reduce it farther as an incentive?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, that's what I would want to make sure.
But are we going to follow the same language in 170 so it's not confusing that we have two different buffer?
Yep, I'm gonna honestly just,
Because it just
I thought,
consistent.
I'm gonna make sure that this matches 170, and then just take the numbers down an extra 10 feet
Yeah.
from what is in
Yeah.
170.
Right.
Yep,
Okay.
okay.
Can I ask a well, I don't know, I had a question on C7, under uses that cannot count towards open space. In 170, we had a bunch of, like, we've crossed out, the way I'm reading this, and maybe it, because I guess it's, you know, what do we, I'm not sure what's considered a public utility facility. So if it's a,
Think of a pump station.
but if it's
An
Yeah.
easement.
if it's an ugly, sorry, if it's just a stormwater pool, does that count as a, because that wouldn't be a public utility facility.
No.
But that, to me, is now counting as open space.
So, no, so 170 still rules.
Okay.
170 is still in effect. Think of this as additional criteria on top of 170. Or, so that's how this functions, because 170 is still law. Because right now, we're into the zoning section, so
Okay.
170 is still in effect. And what you can do is, you know, again, make this more restrictive or less restrictive than 170.
Okay, but when somebody reads this properly 2 years from now, are stormwater ponds in or out?
Per 170, they would be out with exception that is in 170.
Where does it say that it's 170? Because parking areas, I thought, are out in 170, so why are we calling them out here?
So I think that's where we need to make sure, if you want to just get rid of this entire section that says uses that don't count, then you're automatically falling back to what 170 is. And they have to completely comply with 170. I think this section was different than 170, and now the new 170 has taken.
Oh, I see, and then we did 170, so I see, okay.
So we really need to clean this up to more match 170. So I think sections can come out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you know, if you want to incentivize something, then you could put something back in.
Yeah. I'm just afraid if we say things that can't count that are already in 170, it gives the impression that this takes precedent of, that the other things that are in 170 don't have to be can be counted as open space then here, because we didn't mention them here too, so I would just cross those out.
Okay, well, we can
The
get
number
rid of the
7.
entire thing. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of these ideas ended up in the new 170.
Can we look at number 6 for a minute?
Yep.
Why wouldn't any trail system be part of an open space? I don't know why we're specifying parts that would not, or only the parts that would be, I would think any trail system is included in the open space requirement, percentage, or
I
whatever.
think this means that, like, you can't count your sidewalk as a trail.
Yes.
So the
And
sidewalk that's in,
just say that then?
yeah,
I mean, the sidewalk is in the public right-of-way, so it's not even in the open space.
Well, so you can have, yeah, because even if you put a sidewalk around a stormwater management pond, it's part of the open space.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was put in there to be, you know, an incentive of some type, or, you know.
I think what it should say is that if a trail or pedestrian pathway interconnects to an adjacent trail or pathway, it is encouraged to have a public easement, or some language to that effect. I mean, we can't require it to be public, to have a public easement, can we?
Should be accessible to the public, not just like a private
Exactly,
space.
that's what we're trying to do.
Accessibility
Yeah,
for the public.
yeah.
I think we can, but we'll get this vetted by Glenn before.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think we
Legal
can.
opinion, yes.
I think so.
You don't even want to say general public as opposed to the homeowners living there as public, but be general public access.
Yeah, that it would be dedicated for public access
Right.
or available, or there'd just be an easement that allowed for some type of reciprocal ability for everybody to use it.
Agreed. I mean, in the same way the bike path is, although the bike path, I think, is a separate jurisdiction, but
Yeah, because sometimes what you see is this subdivision has a trail, this subdivision maybe have a sidewalk, and then maybe they connect or don't connect, and then, but people will go like, well, you can't use my trail, and you can't use, I mean, like, they want to stop people from using their trails because it's theirs. And
Right, right.
because it would still be the ownership and maintenance of the homeowners association, but I think what you're trying to make sure is that everybody can use the trail system to easily walk through
Right.
the city.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
So did you have any other issues with A or B, and do you just want me to add a C, or did you want to do something else with those?
With, I'm lost. Where?
The trail
You mean on
on 6.
C6?
Yes, I just want to make sure.
Well, again, language that if the trail connects, that it should have a public easement
Yep.
for general use.
Okay, I'll add a C.
Well, no, we're getting rid of the rest of it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get rid of A and B, and then,
Just
I'll-
have 6.
yeah, 6. And I'll add that into that, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Where would you like to go next?
I have some comments on page 1. First start there. Just sort of composure on B, number 1, you end with a semicolon. Number 2, you end with a semicolon. Number 3, you end with a semicolon and the word and. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, which have to be renumbered, all end in periods.
Yeah,
It's just a little,
I'll fix.
yeah, you have to renumber those too, yeah.
Yeah, everything will get renumbered. I just, yep.
Okay. That's a little picky and stuff.
I'm not sure about number 4 there.
Okay.
It seems redundant.
I don't know what a residential appearance means, actually. Like, if you put the sign up residence on it, does that give it the appearance of
case
being
people don't-
residential? I don't know.
This is a house.
Do you remember where that came from, Janice? Janelle?
I don't.
The last one, which is currently number 9,
Oops, sorry.
that's sort of the grief we got with Lewis Waterfront Preserve, putting that next to single-family homes.
And again, this is the purpose statement, so it's the, like, your intent.
Would we lose anything just by deleting
Number 4,
4?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have number 4 as being removed.
okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
and-
Yeah, it's crossed out,
I just
right?
wanted to make sure we'd agreed on that, sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, because we had
Great.
number 7, which will be number 6, and I think we just, you guys wanted, like, just leave it broader and then less detailed, so.
And number 3, I don't like the word restrict. How about if we adjust?
Oh, okay, you're down there, okay. Sorry,
Oh,
I thought we were in AX res and we're in AX mix. Okay, adjust, gotcha. Okay, so in AX mix, did you want to get rid of number 4, provide residential character by requiring structures to maintain a residential appearance?
See it up there?
Actually, I
Yeah.
take that back. I understand that one to a degree, because this is where you can mix commercial and residential together. So if you're gonna do a commercial building, it should look like a commercial building, and you don't want your residential building to look like the commercial building.
Where is that in? Oh, I see.
It's at the bottom of the page.
You're saying, because that's why it's in AX mix, you're saying, and not in AX res.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, because AX mix allows for the mixture of the commercial, and I think what they were trying to get, and that's my guess, is they were trying to get to that a house should look like a house, and an apartment building should look like an apartment building. It should not look like a commercial structure.
Well, but if you have apartments over commercial.
It's gonna have more of a
it's gonna
commercial
have
use.
More of a commercial look.
5 points.
Or if you have loft apartments or something,
Yeah.
it may actually look kind of commercial
Commercial.
from the
Yeah.
outside, I don't.
Yeah,
You guys tell me what you think, and,
I don't think we need it.
I don't think we need it.
okay, out it goes. Oh, Bob,
I kind of like it, because what I'm thinking of is Rick Quill's plan for the Two Dips property. And, he's going to redo the front of the commercial part of that as with the block to look like Two Dips does look, but the rest of it is going to look. I told them at the Joint Site Development Committee meeting I thought it was ugly, and Randy Burton told him he thought he could do a lot better, that Quill could do a lot better. So I think it ought to look residential. Ought to look residential rather than here's a block. Here's a thing made of cinder block.
You have to realize that first presentation was done by a landscape architect, nothing against that, but it was strictly a rendering, a concept, and they haven't gotten to the architectural work yet on that, so it will be refined.
Agreed, Joe, but if an architect,
Are we,
do they have to engage an architect? Not
Eventually,
really.
yes, yeah.
are we saying that a building that is residential above commercial, that the bottom of it has to look commercial and the top of it has to look residential in some way? I'm not, it's the mix. When it's separate buildings, I kind of understand this, but when it's all in one building,
Right.
I mean, first of all, if you have a commercial establishment, you're going to, I mean, it is in your interest to make it clear
that it's a commercial
that it's a
use.
commercial establishment, that you're selling something or offering a service or doing something.
Right.
So maybe it's, ensure the residential, character or the residential appearance for, it's not, for the, sorry, my brain is like
Okay, no, you're looking at the
bouncing,
words here.
because I'm like, because what you want it to say is the structures that are strictly residential should have a residential appearance. The commercial and the mixed-use buildings can have a more commercial appearance, but the residential buildings should have a residential appearance.
And the mixed uses should be compatible with each other, between the residents above and the commercial down below.
Yeah, and they're gonna
The
have,
details, the materials and stuff should be compatible between the two different uses.
I like Joe's approach.
okay.
Compatible.
Is that
Yeah.
I like Joe's approach too.
mixed uses should be
You
compatible.
now can put it in
We're
one
all
sentence.
lined up with you, Joe.
Give her an A+.
Yeah.
So the mixed uses should be compatible with the commercial and the residential uses.
It actually says it under number 3, where we took out restrict, use a scale that is compatible with adjacent structures, but also compatible within its own development. Yeah.
Because I think right here, we're just talking about architecture.
Yeah, the design,
Yeah.
compatible design.
Well, but that's focused on adjacent and intervening
Right.
residential
So
uses.
this is
It's not,
within the same, yeah.
yeah.
Not in one
Yeah.
building.
So what you want this to say is the architecture of the mixed-use building should be compatible with the commercial and the residential architecture within the development.
Or how about maintain architectural compatibility between
Uses.
uses, mixed uses?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I think on page 5, at the top for number C for required open space, I think that's where I think you guys wanted to have some discussion. Because this is different than the new chapter 170.
The new chapter 170 gives a definition of, differentiates between open space, the amount of it that has to be usable, and especially, when I read C2, I worried that you might end up with unusable open space that's kind of narrow little pieces that are close to water bodies that could flood, and you may not actually be able to walk on mushy land, et cetera.
So I think it's, do you want to keep any of this, or do you just want to reference?
Is there
The new
anything here
170.
that's adding something that's important? I guess that's, to me, the key question.
Or is there something else that could be used here as an incentive?
Yes. for example, we actually, I mean, this is more restrictive than 170. So, and I'm not sure we want to be more restrictive here. So a C3 that says does not contain any wetlands. I have to go back and read the other one.
So,
You want to reduce that number?
We said that if, you're looking up, Janelle, are you?
yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Yeah.
I've got it up, I'm just trying to figure out the pages.
Well, okay, here's one thing. We
Yeah.
said that if the stormwater pool was basically, for the majority of the year, could be used and was landscaped in a way that's organic, that's blah, 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 that, and you were providing a bit more open space, that could be counted in the open space count. And that was to encourage people to do more attractive organic pools. And, you know, if it only floods during, I mean, it only fills up with water during a major storm, well, the majority of, you know, of the year, it's.
So right now, okay, so we say 40% has to be contiguous. So this would be less than that. 20% shall be suitable for community open space, which is easily accessible to all units without interfering with adjacent dwelling units, parking, driveways, and roads. And 60% will be usable open space outside of wetlands, tidal or non-tidal or floodways.
Sorry, how much was,
60.
60, okay, so this is a smaller number, okay.
Which, again, if you believe that, if that's an incentive,
Yeah, that's why I'm.
Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't require the open space to be accessible by people everyone in the community. And to me, that's an important part of open space.
Isn't that in 170?
so that is in
That's in
170.
170, but not
But,
here.
but I think what we could
Why
do,
do we have to repeat it?
I think if you're changing the 170 for the open space, I think maybe that's where you do bring that in,
Right.
saying that it needs to be accessible. So that would be, because right now it says at least 20% has to be accessible. Do you want to just bring that over into this one? Because if this is what open space is going to rule for this, then you want to be clear.
Well, but we already say that it has to comply with the ordinance.
Yes, but if you're being less restrictive, you want to make sure you're clear as to what you're being less restrictive of.
Do we want to be less restrictive in the open space?
That's up to you guys.
Got number 3, which is less restrictive, but I don't think we need to relax anything else.
So you're saying then that you would say 170, except that number 3, the continuous portion could be reduced to 30%.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it makes sense to just say that as opposed to, I feel like we're repeating part of 170 in here.
Yes.
And then, but
Yes.
changing other things, and I think it becomes confusing for the person who's trying to comply with it.
Yeah,
just, so, yeah.
what's the difference? So that's
Yeah,
why it's like,
yeah,
okay, if
right.
we're gonna
Yeah.
bring other things in, if you're
I
gonna
think-
be, if you're gonna have exceptions,
Yeah,
it's very clear as to what the exceptions are.
so I think Bob's drafting of that makes it more clear.
So do we need 1 and 2?
I don't think so.
Okay, but we
I don't-
definitely want to keep 3 is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about 4?
thought we did have something on that.
That's not bad. It would be nice if it was in 170.
Yeah. I think we have it in the top of, in like the goals or whatnot,
So the intent is to provide open space in conjunction with new development. So inhabitants to enjoy natural settings and recreational activities, preserve and enhance unique and sensitive natural and cultural resources, build upon and enhance the community open space network, and provide adequate transitions to better integrate development into established communities or environmental areas. Requirements are herein, okay. And then it gets into the applicability, and then the standards.
I'd
And
say leave
then-
4 in then.
Yeah, on 4, talking about adjacent space, it says other ecological sensitive land. How about historic archaeological sites or something like this related? We did that on the Canary Creek development where they had Indian burial grounds or something. They kept that open.
Well, they're gonna be required to by state law, because you're not putting that on.
Okay.
I think that would be, I wouldn't want to buy a house that had that on the property.
Yes.
I mean, because that's a disclosure you've got to put out there. You've got a cemetery on that property, or you've got human remains buried on the property that, you know, that is definitely a disclosure.
Horror movies based on that, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to keep 3, 4. How do we feel about 5?
I thought 170 covered 5, no?
Okay.
I mean, we say you have to have the agreement.
Yeah, I mean,
It has to be clearly stated, yeah.
yeah, I think that's a restatement. And then I'm going to rework 6.
On
No,
5,
go.
I think you need to take out a homeowners association, because the homeowners association is really not formed until, I think it's like 75% of the residences have been established.
That's typically when it gets turned over, but it gets formed at the beginning. It does get formed at the beginning because the developer is typically responsible for the HOA, and they're
Right.
putting money aside. So it does get created. It's when it gets turned over to the homeowners is once you hit a certain percentage.
You
You could add the
right.
word future, or a future homeowners association.
I'm
I
just,
think it's
But
covered in 170.
You can't have them sign it because they're not formed yet.
Sure.
usually the signature, the HOA documents get recorded with all their, and it's the developer signing them, because at that point they are. But if you, do you want it? Do you not want it? Is it duplication?
Maybe then we should take out in advance. Well, this has to go to an attorney before we,
Yeah.
Yep.
I think this is something for an attorney to look at, because
Okay.
the way I read in 170, you have to provide a copy of the charter, you know, everything, and that has to be affected, okay? Like, you're committing that you will.
Yeah, at some point down the road, I'm gonna ask for new developments that come through for a copy of their deed restrictions and their covenants. And I'm gonna review it, and I'm gonna make sure the attorney's reviewing it. And then we don't typically get into the deed restrictions. We're just looking, okay, have you set up the board? How does the board work? Do you have the basics covered in, that they're responsible for the stormwater management and the sidewalks, if they're, or the roads, like certain places, if they have private stuff, or open space. So we're typically looking at that. So you just let me know if you want to in or out, and then I know the next one I'm gonna
I think we need
redo.
an attorney to give us advice on this.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm writing
because I
Glenn
think
on
it's
that one.
I mean, the question is whether whether we need it in versus what we already have in 170. And if what we have in 170 isn't actually compelling this to happen, then I mean, I understand your concern, but I thought what we had put in would have the effect of this, but.
Yeah, if 4 and 5 are not in 170, we ought to consider writing them in there.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask Glenn on number 5. We're tweaking number 6. That if there's that, then there needs to be a public, or an easement to allow for public access. We've gotten rid of number 7. Okay. And then I think we're on D.
On number 1, should we give that plan a name? Should it be a sketch plan, or? Because it says it's not the same level of engineering detail nor reports.
Yeah, you can call it a sketch plan or a concept plan.
Okay.
Is number 2 in or out?
You guys asked to take it out. So I redlined it.
Okay. I think that's right. I don't think, Janelle, you'd want to waive one just because if you waived, any unhappy parties would come back at you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, that'll go to you guys, so you guys can have that. Thank you, Bob. So yeah, no, I struck that one, based on what you guys suggested at the last meeting.
Now, in number 1, this plan doesn't show the units at all.
None of them ever show the units. They just show the lots and then where the buildable area is.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Because it doesn't reference units at all.
No, we-
Yeah, it's, this one won't.
in the
None of them
lots-
do.
Well,
It says potential lots.
yeah,
Yeah.
which could be duplexes, though. I mean, Yeah.
Again, the focus of the planning commission is the lot size and the setbacks and the location of the lots.
Okay.
Where the unit.
Density.
And the density, where the units and, fit within that box, that's kind of up to typically the builder and the private property owner, as long as you've identified a box for them to build in.
This is where you get historical, cultural resources, things that are there.
Number 5, should it say, this does not replace submission of rather than full subdivision plan, of a preliminary plan?
Yeah, I think we can just get rid of a full and then just the subdivision plan. That's actually
Just
much-
subdivision or preliminary?
Preliminary is better.
I think the subdivision plan with the application for a subdivision as defined in 170. I mean, you could add we can add preliminary. I was reading that. I was thinking it in a broader terms. This section doesn't get you out of having to comply with chapter 170. do I need to check that one at the bottom?
Who's identified the scenic view sheds? Like, yeah, I'm looking at E1A2.
Within the eye of the beholder, I believe,
It's
it's
like, just,
probably
I mean,
not
I
and they're not
understand defined
protected?
within city plans, but,
definitions.
Believe it or not, I did my first scenic view shed assessment when I was in school in Michigan,
oh, wow.
on a golf course when it was below zero and
Oh,
windy.
was it snowy? I
No.
mean, it's Michigan, so,
No, that day was not snowing.
good.
Needless to say, we retired after our work to the closest bar.
Needed to warm up, quick.
It's that cold.
I remember those days. Do you,
So are they identified already by the
not that I'm
Byways
a-
Commission?
not view sheds? The only thing the byways looks at is the roads, and view sheds aren't protected.
So why are we doing it then? Why are we asking them to do it?
I don't know.
Well, the question is, how can they do it if there's no, if it's just going to be their eye that's identifying it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, within city plans, yeah.
Are there any view sheds defined in city plans?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I didn't think so.
And the county doesn't define any, hasn't identified any
No.
scenic view sheds.
I'm trusting my memory here, but I think in the New Road Corridor Plan, they're mentioning the view shed as you cross the Canary Creek Bridge,
Okay.
which I timed it, it takes 3 seconds, and that's your chance to see the view shed as you're driving through there. Once the bridge is rebuilt, it may take 5 or 6, but
See, when you said that, though, I have to say, every time I go across it, I think it's a beautiful view there.
I'm always checking to see
I want to see, yeah, I want to see how high it is, anybody crabbing or fishing
Yeah.
there, yeah.
if the tide is low, you could smell it too,
Yeah, that's
the
true.
mud.
Well, in the evening especially, when there's off-gassing kind of a,
Oh, okay, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
right at dusk that tends to off-gas, I think. yeah.
Interesting.
So is that something we need? Or should we take it out? Or better clarification?
I'd say take it out.
Well, let me ask, if this is being done by a registered arborist or landscape architect, are we imagining that they have some training to identify a major view
View shed.
shed? View shed?
They should.
I would
A
think
landscape
so,
architect should.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
about
it should
an
say
arborist.
within city plans or,
Yeah, because
I mean, it would just say, maybe two should just be an assessment of scenic view sheds.
The thing that I regret the most about what we're losing on New Road are the hedgerows.
Well, there'll be new ones put in. I mean, if
They're
you
not,
see the
they're
landscape
doing
plan-
one tree here, one tree here, one tree here, and then lawn. That's not a hedgerow.
Okay.
And
Okay.
never will be.
I prefer to see the deer as they're about to run out in front of me, as opposed to surprising me coming out of a hedgerow,
Okay, so what I'm hearing about this one is an assessment of defined or identified scenic view sheds. And we just get rid of the city, within city plans?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm just making sure I got the right.
Okay.
View sheds, comma, including hedgerows.
Existing hedgerows, yeah.
You come out on
Do we have a definition of a hedgerow? I mean, in the UK, it's a
Oh,
very
very
defined,
specific
Very
thing.
specific. And that a deer, in fact, it would prevent a deer
From getting through.
getting through.
too dense.
You're driving, you know when to look for
In-
sheep or
in
something, because
Flanders,
they're
it
not going to
prevented-
come through the hedgerow.
Prevented tanks from going through, I mean,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, and in New
Burgundy.
England,
Yeah.
there's definitely for a hedgerow or there's stone walls, so.
Yeah.
I think maybe this one, we can just fall back onto the general dictionary.
Okay.
I'll check. I think the Forest Conservation Ordinance in Maryland does define it. But
Okay.
let me check.
Perfect. And I'm gonna update number B to make sure that, that reference to the code is correct for the new 170. It should be, but I need to double check. Or it's about to be, I think, because I tried to pick all of those up and this hasn't been codified yet, so I don't have that.
You know, in Maryland, they, for some reason, the regulations never allowed us to say prepared by a registered landscape architect. It was like you always had to include a landscape designer or other qualified professional. I think the nurserymen all got to.
Oh, there are.
Certified nursery professional, I've seen in codes along with a landscape architect or, you know,
And I don't have a problem with that. So maybe the attorney will have to look at that.
you know, I always prefer if we have to have something signed and sealed by somebody, it's in the code because people are like, where does it say my landscape plan has to be signed and sealed by a landscape architect? So if there's another option, I'm happy to provide that. But I do prefer that in code. When I go back, I want it signed and sealed, and they're like, where?
Okay.
So Merriam-Webster says a hedgerow is a row of shrubs or trees enclosing or separating fields. And then Woodlands UK says a hedge becomes a hedgerow when it includes other features within it, such as trees or a wall, fence, or gates.
I always pictured it being what originally started as a stone wall and then got overgrown and just created itself based on a field separation and then just grew wild, you know, so it keeps getting thicker and bigger and taller. I have a comment on page 3. Is it page 3? 1, 2, 3. Existing residential buffer.
Okay.
And this is, if you go past these down, this is my favorite clip from the Lewis Waterfront Preserve, what happened after they huddled with the byways people, because under 3, existing residential buffer, it goes planting strip or a rolling landscape berm or a solid fence. But this is what wound up on the Lewis Waterfront Preserve.
Was all 3.
Yeah, it was a combination of the fence line is on top of the rolling berm, a 6-foot fence on top of the berm, which I think was at 4 feet high, so you have a 10-foot obstacle there. And, well, at least the Lewis Waterfront Preserve, the houses are backing up to this, and the lot line is 12 feet away from the fence line. The fence line, which is undulating, like the rolling berm. And I always wonder if somebody wants to put a fence in their backyard to keep their kids or their dogs in, are they gonna have a fence on their lot line and then 12 feet away have another fence line which starts 4 feet up and goes 6 feet up then? But we have to stress it's one or the other. You know, you can't put a fence on top of the berm. Well, we'll see
So-
what happens there.
My question is, this is the exact same verbiage, except for the fact that we have it that the buffer cannot be on individual lots as new chapter 170. So should we remove this because they'd have to comply with 170? Or do you want to be less restrictive than 170 for the annexation cluster option?
I don't want to be less
Less, okay.
restrictive there, no.
So does it make sense to take that out then? Because it's already a code requirement
Sure.
in 170. Okay, I literally just read it. The only change is that it is in 170. It says, shall not be something about the adequate transition and density is in this one, but we also say this shall not be located on individual lots. So I think it's doing the same thing.
Well, to
So
Joe's-
three can, you're saying three can come out altogether?
Yes,
Okay.
because it's in chapter 170, it's line 2215.
And the way it's written here, it does say, to Joe's point, it says, meeting one of the following standards, not one or all,
Yeah. Which is what got combined.
or one or as many as you want, yeah.
Nothing prohibits you from doing all three, it's just, the code only requires you to do one,
It's a maintenance issue down the road, though.
so.
Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns?
There was one, whatever happened to the term, looking at, whatever happened to the term density bonus? I don't see any of that here.
Page 2.
Page 2. Well, it's another one on AA, the base permitted residential units, 21,760 units or square feet, or
There should be a square feet.
that's square feet, okay.
I'm pretty sure there's a square feet.
Okay, I just wondered that was a number of units, which
It may not have, when I copied it from the code, it may not have
Kind of
copied
excessive.
over.
Yeah, that's a lot of units.
Let me double check the code.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, because that's a half acre, so,
Yeah, okay.
they're just about a half acre, so.
So it's the gross tract area minus those items divided by 21.
1,760.
That is. And then on the top of page 3, about the buffers provided abutting an agricultural area. The question is, well, if it's an agricultural area, it's obviously not in the city limits. We don't have agriculture city limits.
Correct.
Is it an existing agricultural use, or is it just a zoned agricultural use? Is it a site that somebody has bought and is not farming it and is looking to put in, a residential use the year after or down the road somewhere? I mean, does it matter? I don't know. I just wonder about an abutting agricultural area, whether it was
Yeah, because the
being used as
majority of
such.
what is in the county is going to be zoned AR1. It's an agricultural residential zone.
Okay,
So I think, I'm going to guess this was originally designed for an active farm, but technically it should have been, the state code actually has as a buffer from that.
Shouldn't it be a zoned agricultural area? I mean, how else?
So if it's a
I mean, if I
zoned
have a big
agricultural,
garden in my backyard.
I mean, is it needed?
well,
That's my first question.
if it's
is
an
always-
AR generic zone, you could have,
You can have a 10-acre lot, and
Yeah.
it's just yard
yeah,
with my little garden in the back and my house in the front,
yeah, I just,
or I've got horses,
yeah, you could have
You
horses
know.
and cattle there as opposed to a
and
garden.
it's more of a,
But see, the thing is if it's zoned agricultural, it can always be used for, like, the current use maybe shouldn't be the thing defining it, because someone could buy it and plant
But it's
beans or whatever.
abutting a zoned agricultural area, say.
Yeah.
Might be a little clarification there.
okay, because Tower Hill is zoned agricultural residential.
Yeah.
So at that point, then, you'd have a buffer from a residential neighborhood. Do you need a buffer from a residential neighborhood? Do we need the buffer from an agricultural area?
Well, yeah.
And I want to double check, I'm trying to
It could be
find.
a nuisance use if you've got agriculture area spreading fertilizer in the spring.
Yeah.
You need to step back a little bit from that.
I mean, you could put in chicken houses, right, abutting to the thing, and
Development.
of course,
Not on this side
30
for
feet,
one.
30 feet wouldn't help you much if you did that.
Right now, you can have 99 chickens in the county in AR1.
but not roosters.
So I think that's something,
Say a zoned agriculture.
or an agricultural use.
And have Glenn look
to-
at it too.
Yeah, we'll get,
Ask Glenn's
There's
opinion
another
of
lawyer
chickens.
issue, yeah.
All right.
okay. I've got Glenn on that one.
And then lower on that page, under design layout, number 4, B, recommended following features. You go into variable facade materials, I'd like to say on colors, to help improve the variations there. Variable front yard setbacks, variable facade materials and colors of the design.
Can't the colors change?
Yeah,
I mean, you would start out with it, but somebody couldn't,
Well, even H Park doesn't control color.
yeah, they have very limited control over color, and
I thought H Park did control, when they formed.
They-
as
They
H
have
Park-
They took it over from Clark. Clark
Yeah.
had control,
Yeah,
and H Park inherited, if you talk to
so the only time H Park has control over color is when it becomes before them. So if something's being done chair and staff, they have no control over color, and then they typically, like last night, they got a little bit into like the roof color. Like if they've gotten into more discussion, if somebody wanted a red roof, they could get into more of a
It was more a materials discussion.
yeah, that was more
color.
materials than, because there wasn't like a color that was super offensive to anybody, because nobody was trying to do anything in like, magenta. But that's where they have control over that. I think,
Homeowners associations control color ferociously sometimes.
yeah, and I don't think we,
I kind of agree with Joe that maybe some variation should be allowed, because, I mean, I've known of homeowners associations that won't let you put a shed out back unless it's, one of several shades.
and I'm not sure we want to start regulating paint color, because then if that gets a part of the approval process, and then 10 years down the road, somebody wants to paint their house and it wasn't the green that they were supposed to,
Okay, well, I was just looking at it,
I look down the road as to what's going to cause,
I'm thinking of Levittown and Long Island, where they put, hundreds, if not 1,000 houses with 2 choices of siding, white or tan.
yes.
And that was it. That made it easy, but I'm just looking here for giving people an option, or telling them, we're asking for variable facade materials, which could also include variable colors.
Yes.
Different choices of colors, so just to improve.
Well,
if we
it might
said-
be something that the planning commission can,
I wrote that down and
Pass it down, okay, all
it's
right.
also a Glenn question. I want to make sure we're not stepping into,
if we included the word variable variable facade materials, comma, appearance,
or just variable
And so-
facade treatment.
Just work around it.
so you could like fit color under that, but not be saying that you're
Specify it,
regulating the
yeah.
color,
Yeah.
for.
yeah, because
Okay, keep it generic.
But I thought that if you had a house in the historic area, that if you're repainting it, you have to go before them.
It depends on how much it costs. And if you're replacing it in kind with the exact same materials and the exact same paint, and depending on the cost, it does not.
And I'm sure a lot of people aren't aware that if they change, they have to come before them.
We do try to let them know.
I'm not,
But again, if,
I was,
or was it until about 30 seconds ago?
yeah, I had to do a scale drawing just for my gate that I was replacing.
then again, I don't think we will require, honestly, I don't think we require a building permit for paint. I'm gonna have to double check, because I always want to tell people the things we don't require permits for, is like painting,
Yeah.
and because there's very few things, and it's like, yeah, painting is one of them, and because pretty much everything else you need a permit for. But yeah, the only time H Park has control over paint color is when it comes before them as the full commission.
Good, I hadn't realized that.
Yeah, that changed a couple of years ago. Any other questions, concerns, amendments, changes? Okay, what would you like to do for next steps then? Because I've got some work to do to amend these.
I have a question on your chart here. Those two-
Oh, yeah, sorry, I
Yes.
forgot about the chart.
Yes, the chart.
Could you make me a copy of the chart?
Yes.
I can give you mine, because I've reviewed it completely.
She got
Okay.
So you
memorized.
don't, you're good.
Okay,
All right.
I was gonna print it out bigger, but,
Can you read mine, because I printed out one.
Yeah, the first page on the bottom side yard and rear yard, going across under the planned residential community AX mix only. On the bottom, it says commercial 30 for front yard setbacks, and then side yard 10, side yard 15 on the commercial. I thought on the commercial, you can go right up to the building line, to the property line.
so in GC, the general commercial zone,
Okay.
there's very limited, you have no side or rear setbacks.
Right,
But when they adopted this, they did create setbacks.
okay.
So if you want to change those, this is your opportunity.
Well, the question is, would the side yard setback for commercial, could that be used for driveway to get to, say, a back parking lot?
No, it's just for the building itself. Driveways can go to the property lines. And drive aisles can go to the property lines.
Okay, adjacent to the building, which is set back from the property line?
Yes, as long as the only things that have to fall within your setbacks is the principal structure, and then typically accessory structures can encroach, like your shed in your backyard.
Okay.
Has a different invisible area that it can be built in. The setbacks are primarily just for like the house or the main commercial structure, and then everything else can kind of be located within anywhere on the property unless there's an exception.
And then on page 2, under the, again, the residential plan community, the commercial area, again, the maximum lot coverage is 65%, and the main structure is 50, which is different than, I guess, from general commercial.
Yes, the general commercial, the GC, because we have a couple other zoning commercial classifications, is 95%.
5%, yeah, way up there. So there it's been reduced to be more in line with a user-friendly residential mixed development. Okay.
So, and for that, I did get rid of the building height for the FEMA that you asked for,
Right.
and then I just deleted for the all other locations, because then it just falls into that's just the height. And then I did amend the conventional lot coverage from 10% to 20%. And then in cluster option 1s for the dwelling 2 family for the minimum lot area, we went from 8 to 6 based on our last conversation. And then I did update the front yard setbacks to what they were supposed to be was the 15 feet and not the 10 feet. So then if you have a front porch, you're not on the property line, you still have 5 feet of front yard.
Planting and landscape.
Yes,
And for steps?
yes. Well, steps can only encroach 10 feet into your front yard setback.
Okay.
So if the front yard setback was at 10 feet and you could actually have steps at your property line, and you could have had a front porch at your property line, which was, I think, why we backed it up to 15. So there's some grass or something else.
And the townhouse side setbacks, that's the setback for a set of townhouses?
Yes,
Right, okay,
it's for the end units.
the end units, okay.
Did we ever talk about reducing the square footage per unit on townhouses?
I don't think so.
We did.
I don't remember.
We did, yeah.
To 1,800, I think.
Okay,
I thought that's what we said, yeah.
all right, I will fix that now. Okay, I'm fixing that one now. So we'll add.
One other comment, I think I.
The one thing, oh, anyone else have?
Well, I just noticed on page 1 on the far right, non-residential, we have agriculture, and I don't know why we're restricting agriculture to 435,600 square feet when we don't have any control over that. All the rest of the columns are NA.
I'm curious because maybe it should have been an acre, 43560, which would have been an acre, and they added an extra 0.
Is that what that is? I don't know.
Yeah, 43560 is
Yeah,
the square
it's-
footage of an
What you
acre.
have is 10 acres.
Yeah, is you've limited it to 10 acres, so, or. I'm gonna double check that one, make sure it didn't copy over wrong.
For the end unit, this is, sorry, I just
Nope.
realized what my question was. For the end unit of a townhouse, so if I go to cluster option number 1, townhouse, and the minimum lot width is 20 feet, but the side yard setback is 10 feet. Does that mean we would actually permit a townhouse that was 10 feet wide?
Yes?
No.
If you have the end unit
Yeah,
having only a 20-foot wide lot that it's on,
yeah.
but it has to have a setback of 10 feet on one side of it.
No, but that would be lot to lot, not unit to unit, right?
No,
No.
no. So if
would
you've
be-
got a 4-pack, you've got 10 feet here, and if this is only 20 feet, this is a 10-foot wide unit. Because it's not between the units,
Yeah.
it's from your property line, so it's a 10-foot side yard setback. So this lot is then 10 feet, and then you've got 10 feet here.
Well, then the
'Cause these are
end lot
20,
would have to be
20.
30 feet
Yeah, typically,
to maintain the 20-foot unit.
it's your minimum is 20 feet. You'd probably do like 22 feet or 24 feet. And the end units do have a tendency to be wider lots. So they can accommodate that. So you'd probably end up with a 12 or 14 foot wide.
The developer would tweak the width of each unit.
I understand that, but
yeah.
if the developer chose not to, they could build a 10-foot wide unit, is what.
Yes. As long as it meets building
And you have
code.
to figure you have walls, so that's,
And corridors.
and yeah.
I had a boyfriend who lived in Georgetown, and he had a 10-foot wide townhouse down by the canal,
Hey,
and there was one room on each floor, and it was 3 floors.
my trailer is 8
You
foot,
loved it.
so we go at it, but I'm not sure I want to be
No one would build that today.
design, okay.
maybe do you want to change the side yard setback to 8
No,
feet?
I just wanted to understand.
Okay.
I'm fine. Here you go.
I wouldn't even mind if the side yard was 5 feet, that's fine with me.
That's up to you guys. If you want to reduce that side yard setback for the townhouses, 5 feet is, because then you'd have 10 feet in between the 2 units.
Fire access. Fire
As long as you're
department
meeting the
likes that.
fire rating for the exterior walls, because typically the closer together, the more fire rating you have to do for the exterior walls, but that's up to you guys. If you want to reduce that, you're more than welcome to. Because the single family are at 8.
Man, as soon as they plant anything in between those, that's not very much,
It gets,
it gets really narrow. I mean, I'm happy with the 10 feet, but
okay.
Okay?
I'm not
Especially
sure
they're
that it's gonna,
2.5 or 3 stories tall.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All you need is a little swale between the 2 houses,
Yeah, with a fence on top.
water out. That's it.
I just need to get the lawnmower through.
Yeah.
Twice, maybe.
This is how my uncle painted the wrong house.
The wrong
He
way.
got the ladder all set up, and he tilted it the wrong way and started painting his neighbors because it's so narrow between the two houses.
Aw.
Lucky him.
All right. Do you want to meet again to discuss the changes, or do you want to just,
One other
Yeah,
issue
go,
I wanted
go.
to bring up is that there's really no discussion of alleys anywhere. I thought we wanted to encourage them.
I thought that was, but
Long discussions
we had
about
a long
that.
discussion about,
Access.
I think that's in a separate section than this.
I think it's in the subdivision section. Is it not?
I thought there was another,
No, this is the entire, cluster subdivision code. I think that's in,
how did we end up having a long discussion on alleys? We
it's
had
not-
verbiage on it even. I feel like
encourage
it
use of them.
evaporated or something.
For backloading the houses for access to garages and
right,
deliveries and
It is in the subdivision code, though.
it,
I mean, maybe it's because we talked about it, we took it,
I think it should be more explicit here.
okay.
Agreed.
to incentivize it.
We can put it in design layout, and we'll add an E. And I'll put some alley information if there's something specific you'd like in it. I'll see what we've got in 170, and then add some other stuff for alleys. Cause yeah, we wanted rear loaded.
Right.
Yeah, because we even talked about the setback of the garage.
yeah.
Okay. And that's all where this will fall into, is the design layout. So we'll talk about the setback of the garage, and the front porches. Okay. So I'll add, information about that into that.
Should we meet after we get Glenn's comments? You know,
Well, I'll ask Glenn, but I'm gonna add, stuff about the alley and the front porches and the garages, the setback for the garages, and I've got a bunch of changes to make.
okay.
So do you guys wanna meet again to discuss those, to make sure I didn't miss anything? Or you just want to, me to make the changes, send it out to you guys, and you respond back individually with any comments, tweaks?
Yeah.
And then you can present it at,
Yeah.
planning commission, and then see how they want to move forward with it? Okay,
And then if someone has like a minor change that they've responded back with, I mean, we can still, a person at the planning commission meeting can add that, you know, if it's
Yes.
an edit or something.
Right.
you know,
Yep.
We don't have to have
Right.
another meeting.
so, but just FYI, this will not be ready for Wednesday.
Oh, geez.
Sorry,
You mean you're gonna take the weekend off?
maybe part of it. Yeah, it'll definitely be ready for August, and I'll get it to you ahead of time.
Okay.
But, yeah, I just want to make sure nobody's expecting it for next Wednesday.
No, no.
I'll tell everybody, I'll be away in August, but after the session is over.
Okay. Anything else?
Can I make an
Yeah.
announcement that if you have not filled out your ratings on the action plan items, please get them to Janelle ASAP.
I saw
Other-
the deadline on that, and I
Otherwise, it
missed
will be only a small number of people from the planning commission who are setting the agenda for